Hello, Facebook fans and YouTube fans of DX Engineering. It is Tuesday afternoon here in the Eastern time zone of the USA. That means it's 17:15 Zulu. We're here on Daylight Savings Time and April 23rd, 2024. And we are thrilled that you're here. And we're also thrilled to have a special guest today. We're talking about the Florida QSO Party with Chris, W4WF. Hello, Chris.
Good afternoon, Tim. It's great to talk to you.
Chris, you got the big Florida QSO Party coming up this weekend, but give everybody a little history lesson on the Florida QSO Party.
I'll try to condense it down as much as possible. In the mid 90s, Florida had a QSO party in the 70s and 80s that kind of dissolved. The publication that sponsored it went away. And then in the mid 90s, K1TO and K1ZX at the time, later K4OJ, and a handful of others would drive around Florida to go to Hamfest. So you drive from the Tampa area, you drive over to Melbourne to go to a Hamfest, or you drive to Orlando, or you drive to Miami. And OJ observed that all of these interior counties, there's nobody here. There's really, outside of the cities, Florida's pretty rural. And he said, I bet most of these counties are really rare for county hunters. And, through that discussion, Dan and others said, I bet we could start a QSO party. And they picked a weekend and they started a QSO party. The first one was in 1997. And the FCG has been sponsoring it. We've been running it ever since. So this is our 27th QSO FQP will be coming up this weekend. It starts at noon Eastern on Saturday and runs 10 hours on, and then take 10 hours off so you can get a good night's sleep, and then picks up again at 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern on Sunday, another 10 hours, and you finish around dinner time Sunday.
So it's a real convenient contest when it comes to operating time. I think you guys have thought that out, but let's get into some nitty gritty here, Chris. What about activity levels? What can, if I tune into this thing on Saturday afternoon, what sort of activity can I expect?
Well, we just published our results. Unfortunately, I don't have them open in front of me, but I can tell you that in Florida, pretty routine for a fixed station to hit 1,000 QSOs, which is to say over the 20 hours, 1,000 QSOs between phone and CW. Outside of Florida, pretty common to do 400 or 500 QSOs. A lot of the much of our activity is driven by the mobile stations. And so every time a mobile station changes counties, you can work them again. So we have folks who line up everybody from OM2VL way out in Eastern Europe to, we consistently have like WJ9B, who's very active from Idaho. So from east to west, you have people who follow these mobiles through the counties. Every time they change counties, they, of course, change their exchange, and you work them again. And it's pretty routine for pretty serious entry from outside of Florida might work the same mobile station 20 or more times. So when you think you've got to turn up as much fixed station activity as you can. So if you're on from Pennsylvania, you would want to work all the fixed stations that you can, certainly on all the bands. But the real meat and potatoes from outside of Florida is the mobile activity.
Yeah, and I think you guys do one of the better jobs when it comes to state QSO parties about getting that mobile activity on the air. Talk a little bit about the spelling bee contest.
So this started for the 15th Florida QSO party, which really doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but was, a long time ago. Dan, K1TO, who is very observant and, big on this sort of thing, he observed independently that the phrase Florida QSO Party has 15 letters. And he said, we should do 15 stations on the air with one-by-one calls whose suffixes spell out the word that we, the phrase Florida QSO Party. So it seemed like a big undertaking, but he said, look, we're only going to have one 15th anniversary. We want to, put this on and do a good job. So we found hosts who were willing to operate all weekend. We said, you need to be on phone NCW. You need to be very active. You need to be, putting in a full-time effort. Have some friends over if you don't want to operate the full time. So we had tremendous buy-in from from club members all over the state, and we put it on, and it was a huge success. There's maybe a couple of dozen, anywhere from a dozen to a couple of dozen people who are really in it to get a county sweep in the FQP every year. If we have 20 or 25 county sweeps, that's a really good year for us. There are hundreds of people who just can't spend that much time on the radio for any number of reasons that weekend. But the spelling bee gives them something that's a little bit more bite size. It's still enough of a challenge because you've got to track down these stations. We don't have there's no guarantee that they're all going to be on a specific band or specific mode at a specific time. We just say we're going to make sure that they're all on both phone and CW during the weekend. And so that gives people something a little bit more bite-sized to chase.
All right. So let's talk about things like what bands is the contest on?
So the FQP is a little bit unique. We are on 10 meters through 40 meters. So there's no 75 or 80 meters, no 160 meters. We set it up that way because the time that the FQP is on is, except for 2 or 3 hours at the end of the day on Saturday, is all in daylight. So we don't want to have everybody on 80 meters during the day. And we set the rules up in such a way that in-state stations don't get multipliers for counties. So if you're in Florida, we want you on the highest band that's open outside of Florida. We don't want you to be chasing counties around the state on 80 meters. That would be great if you're in Georgia or Alabama or maybe South Carolina, but that would really not leave you much to do in the middle of the afternoon in Wisconsin if everybody's on 80 meters. So we want to push everybody onto the higher bands. The side effect of that is the activity is really concentrated on 20 meters, and then everybody goes to 40 meters late on Sunday. But as the solar cycle has ticked up and conditions have gotten better, we're hoping that 15 and 10 are going to really take off. Last year was the first time in this solar cycle that we had more QSOs on 15 meters than we had on 40 meters, which is a good sign if you're in W7 or W6, that, there's going to be more activity for you. That, everybody's not going to be on 20 all day. There's going to be more activity spread out among the bands that you can work Florida on.
Well, that's really cool that you guys have put a lot of thought into this. And the lowest band you can be on is 40. The highest band is 10. So you got 40, 20, 15, and 10 meters to worry about. What about FT8, FT4, Chris?
We have not put digital on the menu yet. It's really difficult. One of the things that's held us back, we're very conscientious on log checking. We cross-check literally every QSO that comes in. So if we get a log from K3LR, we're going to match every QSO in that log with the corresponding logs in Florida to the extent that we have, of course, both logs. On FT8, that's just really tough. It's tough to get a county exchange out of somebody in Florida on FT8. It's tough to translate. They sent me a grid. Part of that grid's in Florida, part of that grid's in another state. How do I know where they are? It really seemed like that part was sort of a technical challenge. And then there's sort of a cultural challenge, which is, the QSO parties that we know of that have added FT8 and FT4, they really don't see a big incremental growth. I mean, there's a ton of activity on FT8 and FT4 every day. And of course, nobody disputes that. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of sort of untapped contest activity on that band. In other words, there's activity there whether or not there's a contest. And it's really hard to say, you could grow your contest if you allowed FT8 and FT4. So for that reason, we've chosen not to do that. We do consider rule changes every year, and that's one that we get, that gets batted around pretty often. So far, it's always come down that it's not worth it, but we're open to that if it comes around. Yeah.
Well, you never know. I mean, as you say, you're open to suggestions, and that's a real good thing. But it sounds like you guys have really given a lot of thought, and it's been successful. I mean, when you look at the number of stations and the activity, it is just really good. Chris, I wanted to say hello to a couple of the folks that are here in the chat room. From Mexico, it's X-Ray Echo 2 Zulu. Zulu is on. And from sunny Central Florida, John, Kilo Charlie 4 Lima Zulu November is on. And out in Colorado, it's Kilo Bravo 0 Tango Sierra. And from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, it's W3MLJ. Hello,
right in your backyard.
Yeah, we're going to look forward to seeing Michael down at Hamvention as well. Bobby, KF5 GTX from Oklahoma City. Nice to have you on, Bobby. And Donnie from Tennessee, Kilo 4 Echo Kilo. That's a lot of kilos. We've got a shortwave listener from Nepal, 9 November 0001 Sugar Whiskey Lima. John from the Great Hamcation, November 4 Juliet Tango Kilo. John, good to have you on. And Dan is on with us, WA4 Mike Oscar Mike. Always good to have Dan on, and hope there's lots of activity this weekend. 73 from Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. And our friend November 3 Juliet Delta. Jeff, thanks for the show. Antonio, I'm sorry, Papa Yankee 2 Bravo November. And our good friend, the Supreme DX, here in Western Pennsylvania, Whiskey Kilo 3 November, who never sleeps. He's always on the air, and I'm sure
always in those pileups.
He'll be working some of the Florida stations this weekend. Chris, give us some hints. Give us some tips for the guys as they get geared up here for Saturday afternoon.
If you've never done the Florida QSO Party before, you've never done it seriously, probably 65-70% of the activities on CW. So it tilts a little towards CW. As you're chasing the mobiles around or you check the rules, we do have what we call a mobile window, which is it's only on CW. We've not successfully enforced it on SSB in the past, but it's a segment of the band where we ask the in-state Florida stations not to CQ, and we ask them to set it aside for mobile stations because, as you can imagine, you're running a shortened, very inefficient mobile antenna on 20 meters. You can't hear anybody in the state of Florida. You're just, the signals are too weak. You're skipping right over. So it'd be impossible for us to tell, are we on top of one another? Where are we? So we set aside this window. That's where the mobiles will congregate, and you'll find that we tend to sort of line up in there, so you can tune from one end to the other, and you'll see the same mobiles turn up in the same in the mobile window in the same place most of the weekend. That really helps as you're chasing the county sweep, as you're following along to see, this guy's just crossing from Orange County into Polk County. So that means he's going to get to Hardy County, which is the one that I need next. So, you want to stay on, we want to pay attention to that because we want to get there as soon as he changes. So that's really a lot of fun. I can tell you from experience, particularly on Sunday, the pileups on the mobile stations are really intense. I mean, you can have some really deep pileups and really fast hours operating from a mobile, as all the fixed stations from Europe and the U.S. are lining up to work you as you go through the county. So we're really optimistic that we're going to have good conditions. I think we may not have it quite as good as in ARR LCW, which was just truly historic, but we're hoping. I'm selfishly going to be on 10 meters as K4OJ. So I'm really hoping that 10 meters opens up. We can work a few hundred Qs there and, add to the total. The stretch goal for our group, there's 3 of us operating multi from the same SUV in a mobile. The stretch goal is 5,000 QSOs from 3 stations in the same SUV. So that would really, that's going to require a little bit of luck, but we've got our fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. And of course, with conditions, why not? It sounds like a good goal. KF5GTX says, can non-Florida stations run mobile?
You can operate however you like. For non-Florida stations, we consider any entry. Let me rephrase that. If you change states, then you could operate. You could change again. So if you go from Oklahoma to Texas, your log would reset, and you could work everybody again. But other than that, no advantage to going mobile from outside of Florida. But we'd love to have you come to Florida and operate mobile if you're interested.
There we go. That's the ticket. Skip talks about his local club, the Portage County Amateur Radio Service, PCARS, will be on for the Florida QSO Party from their club site, K Bravo Fox, and they're looking forward to it. I think that'll be a multi-op entry. And as with all state QSO parties, they are really good for training and getting your feet wet in contesting. And our friend from RF Kit, it's Reinhardt, Delta Hotel 3, November Alpha Bravo, and looking forward to RF Kit at Hamvention as well. It's Florida QSO Party.org is the website, right?
That's correct. All the rules, the rules, maps, activity maps, and planned activity, all of that stuff is available there.
Yeah, you got to spell it out. Florida QSO Party.org has all the information that you need to have a lot of fun this weekend in the Florida QSO Party. Chris, thanks so much for coming on today.
Appreciate it, Tim. It's great to talk to you as always, and we'll look forward to hearing everybody on the air this weekend.
That sounds great. And give our best to Doc, and we'll see you on the air. Everybody
sure will.
On the air this weekend and work those Florida stations. They're out there having a good time, and you can have some fun too. Until next time, 73 from DX Engineering.